Welcome to Tabletop Gaming Guild Show. Tabletop Gaming Guild is all about the experiences that playing tabletop games with friends and family can create. Tonight's episode, we are talking about racing games. What are racing games? What are great implementations of racing games? What are terrible ones? And who is the best of us at go-karts, of course. But before we get into that, what have we been playing lately? So, Nathan, why don't you start us off, because I'm sure your list is very extensive.
Well, I'll keep it pared back for now. I'll just go over a couple of the ones I've been playing, and I actually have a couple of them right here. So, lately I've played Furnace.
That's a good one.
So, Furnace is essentially of a card game, and it's an engine building game. You have tokens that you're going to be spending with 1 through 4, and you're using those to bid on cards. If you lose the bid, you get resources. If you win the bid, you get the card that you can put in your engine to later on run your engine and get a lot more resources. So it's a really solid card game. It's really meaty for how small it is. I thought it was quite good at what it did. It was maybe a little bit dry on the theme, but it still was a phenomenal card game.
Yeah, so did you do the advanced mode, or did you kind of stick just the basic, you can rearrange the cards, your tableau as you need to?
We're not smart enough to do the advanced mode. No, we rearranged.
Yeah, it's a little more forgiving that way.
Yeah, I think if I played it a bunch of times, I'd probably try that, but depends on the play group I was playing with. It seems like because we're always playing new games and we don't spend a lot of time on any particular game, I don't know if we'll get to the level where comfortable doing that. The next one I want to talk about is Res Arcana, another really amazing card game. So this one is like an anti-deck builder. So it feels like a deck builder because you're going in and using cards to, purchase things in like a tableau in the front center that everybody can have access to. But you're not actually adding to your deck. You only ever have 8 cards in this. You don't ever really get any more. The things you're buying go in front of you and stay in front of you. So game goes really quickly. I mean, it seems like I think it goes under 30 minutes a lot of times. And the one downside of it is I think there's a limited replayability. I wish there was more components you can put in. I really need an expansion for this game. And I probably will hopefully be getting one soon.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, so how many does it play? Because I'm not too familiar with the game here, or like the theme, or...
It plays 2 to 4. So it's a low player count game, but you're basically playing as mages, and there are like locations in the center of the board that cost a lot of resources to acquire, but they're going to score you a lot of points, and the game ends as soon as somebody has 10 points. And yeah, you can get that a little bit at a time, or you can get like 5-6 points in a single turn towards the end. So it's like, it can go from, okay, this is really taking a long time, to suddenly, oh, it's over. Somebody just won. And it's like, where did that come from? The other game that's been on my table for 2 weeks now and has not left the table at all is Frosthaven. This is a sequel to Gloomhaven. Equally massive game. You can play this game for at least 100 hours if you have any chance of actually finishing it. It's pretty much a heavily involved campaign. And unlike Gloomhaven, it does up the building your community more. There's a little bit more emphasis on that. So between scenarios, you're going to be building buildings, dealing with people, and trying to improve your community and build up your defenses and protect against attacks between scenarios.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that one to the table as well. I mean, not my own copy because my buddy Matt bought his own. So with the added bonus of it's at his house, so he has it set up by the time I get there, so I don't even have to, deal with that part of it either.
Yeah, the setup is a bear for this game. Uh,
Did you get an insert? Because I imagine that almost has to be necessary.
I did. It's moderately helpful. I really was hoping for more, but with how much is in this game, it was not a realistic challenge to be able to organize this thing. I mean, the game, I picked it up and almost fell over when I picked it up when it got delivered. It's like, I think it was like at least 40 pounds. It's bigger than Gloomhaven, significantly.
Yeah, I saw the next two pictures, and yeah, it is quite larger.
Yeah. So that's what I've been playing. John, what have you been playing?
I've played a few things. I mean, other than before we played Ottawa, I played that as well with a few friends. Girlfriend came over and we played a couple of her like co-op games. One Deck Galaxy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one. Um,
Heard of it, but not really.
yeah, so it's kind of like the One Deck Dungeon games, but a little bit of a Civ builder element to it. And so you basically have one of, I think 5 or 6 races that you pick from, and then kind of your technology direction. And then you also get to pick who your nemesis is. That's you're basically working against. And I picked we were like, she had never played before, and it's like, let's play this one. They got the goofiest name for the nemesis. Oh, those guys were jerks. They kept on buying up all of the stuff and making all of our other, stealing all of our resources. So we couldn't, fill out our own resource sheets. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was still pretty fun. I enjoyed it. Um, it it took a little bit. I mean, but it never really felt like it dragged. And I also always felt like we were both able to like come up with things and contribute to the game. Um,
And Ottawa's on the channel.
yeah,
It should be up now if you're interested in that. That's an Uwe Rosenberg game. It's not as heavy as say Feast for Odin, but it's still, feeding your people and you know building a village.
yeah, and
Like every other of his games.
Yes.
yes, yeah. And like pretty much the last turn is you sacrificing as many animals as you can to the carnivorous hordes that you've now raised.
Hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
and only certain people like to eat bats.
yep. Only the people who have not made them a part of the family.
Yeah, not the safest thing to eat necessarily, though.
No. Let's see. I did play a couple of standbys. Did the Munchkin app. Online with
Ooh,
a few friends. They're huge Munchkin app, fans. So
I'm sorry.
yeah, it was painful. It's also unfortunately it's the same group I go to Origins with, so they usually wind up dragging me into one game of it at least.
Mm.
Dominion, nothing too fancy there. I did play Heat Pedal to the Metal, which is pretty good. We'll talk about that more later. I'm assuming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
I
yeah, it was kind of fortuitous the theme because I
I
just played that a few days ago.
I don't know why we would talk about it. It has nothing to do with racing.
Yep, it's all about managing thermodynamics. All right, it's heat.
Who can keep the thermostat at the same temperature the longest?
Well, that's easily me. I just turn it all the way down. And then yeah, Seven Wonders Duel. Did get around to that end um, last week, and I think that's about it. I don't know if you guys Seven Wonders Duel. I mean, it's Seven Wonders, but 2 player, and I feel like it plays a lot better than Seven Wonders. At least it feels a
Yeah,
little more structured.
I really do like the how they do the cards and the pyramid shape where you can, as you take it, you're making something else available. I really think that's a lot stronger than the drafting mechanism for base regular Seven Wonders.
Yeah, and it still has like the whole same effect of if I'm taking this, then I'm leaving these things here. But you also have things that you're kind of like, all right, I need to open these up. Which ones do I want to open up?
And
I feel
it makes um, the science and the war things more manageable because if you know somebody's going for war, you can be very careful not to open that up. Whereas when you're drafting, you just sometimes you don't have a choice. If you have multiple things that would help them,
Yep.
you can't stop them.
Or you might not have ever even seen it because you have somebody to your left and to your right drafting it, and you're
Yeah,
like, well, I never get to see them, so yeah.
And plus, I've always, playing Seven Wonders a few times. It never played well at a low play count at all.
Yep. We played with the deities expansion. So, so basically you have like different,
oh,
pantheons and
Pantheon is the expansion.
yeah. But yeah,
Yeah, that's a good expansion.
yep. But yeah, that's it for me. So we don't need to hear about Evan's game playing.
No, no, it's
Evan,
probably
who?
Yeah.
all miniatures and painting and all
Yep.
boring stuff.
I actually did pick up my paintbrush for the first time in a while. So, but we have a convention coming, and I have to paint a bunch of stuff for it. Plus, also, right now on our Discord is a miniature painting contest going on. So, if you're watching this and not a member of our Discord and that interests you, definitely join because they pop up from here time to time. So, but side note, and I digress onto what I've been playing recently. So the first one I'm going to talk about is My First Stone Age. So I got this on a recommendation from James, as he has a few young ones, and I have a young one also. And we needed a game because I have a couple for him that have more elaborate setups and are longer playtime, something that takes up a smaller space and can be played in like 15 to 30 minutes. And this fits that. I can put this on a small side table and play it, and we can be done in 15 to 30 minutes. So it's a very boiled down version of Stone Age. You have to build 3 huts. At the bottom of the huts is the resources that you need. There's 5 resources in the game. And then you put tokens out on the outside of the board. You flip over which one of them, that tells you where you're moving. And then once you complete that, you move that and a different token around and just repeat the game. It's built for, ages 5 plus. My youngest is 5. It's right into his wheelhouse. And he really enjoys it. Like I said, it's just that perfect fit for a small, easier game. Next one that I played that I really, really enjoyed was Picture Perfect. So, Picture Perfect is you are a photographer amongst the other players who are also photographers trying to capture the perfect moment at this dinner party. So, everyone has the same guest, and you have to figure out how to align them into the perfect arrangement. Now, each person has different wants of how they want to be, whether they want to be next to somebody, not next to somebody, if they want to be in the first, second, third row, left side, right side, or if they're vengeful against somebody and don't want their face to be seen, and yada yada. And sometimes they have conflicting things that they want, where they want to be both on the left or right side because people are just that way. What's really cool is every single person that is into the game that you need to arrange, there is a folder for them, and all their wants are hidden inside of that. You get so many of these that are going to be known information to you, and everyone else gets that. And there's a couple in the middle that are public that people can get. when you have your public or your own private information, you pick one, you look at it, do whatever you want to do, and then when you seal that up during that round, you cannot open that up again. So you have to keep what you've learned in the back of your mind, because you can't go back and look at it again until the next round. And then each round, all the envelopes get shuffled around somewhat, and you have to figure out the best arrangement and score points off of that. It's really not super complicated. The table presence for it is really amazing, and it's just one of those games that is just completely different, that is really refreshing to play.
Yeah, you're basically building a diorama, right?
Yeah, you're building a diorama. That's the best way to put it, with hidden information, a Clue, but in a better way. And you can do this game probably in 45 minutes to an hour. And like, I could teach somebody how to play this game in probably 10 minutes and go. It plays up to 4, but there's a 5 and 6 player expansion, and all it does is just add more of the same stuff. You don't have to really do too much more for it. And then there's other expansions too that do some really neat things, like put a movie star or a pickpocket into it. So yeah, I was really blown away with it.
I saw a playthrough of this from another channel it's another channel, so it's probably not as good as us, but I won't disclose who it is. But one of the players got confused, and for some reason he thought, oh, the center of the table was where the camera angle is, where you're supposed to be like not from his point of view. It's like, so he had this whole thing set up backwards. Like, why would you think the center of the table is?
And when we played it, I was like, I was doing really well, and there was one person I didn't have any information for, but I already had them out. So I'm like, it'll be fine. I can't botch this too bad. And then I open up the thing, and I'm like, I have nothing that they want in here, and there's no way I can move them around whatsoever. They're screwed. Yeah, it is stuff like that. It's really cool, because as you're opening the little package, you can just feel like these are just needy people who are just annoying, and I hate having to deal with them. But to be a photographer in that situation, yeah, you're gonna have to deal with them.
And some of them conflict, so you can't really do all of them, right?
No. Yeah. I opened one that it was like they wanted to be on the left side of the table and on the right side of the table. you pick one. You're getting one, buddy. That's it. But yeah, that was a good one. I really enjoyed that one. I can't wait to get a couple more plays for it. Just like I said, it's a refreshing game because it's just so different from everything else. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is I just finished my review for Last Will. So Last Will, it's a CGE game. If you are familiar with the movie from the, I think, early 80s, Brewster's Millions, it is that. Your rich uncle has died. He had a large amount of money and wants to make sure that whoever inherits his money knows how to enjoy the money. So you were given a bit of money to spend it all, and if you were the first one to go broke, you inherit a large amount of money. So it's just going and how can I manipulate all these different actions that I have to spend the most amount of money here. And you get a little tableau that you're building with different actions that you can buy, and there's some bidding and stuff like that. There'll be a review coming up here pretty soon. I actually just sent it off to be edited, so should not be long, but it was not a bad game. It was not a bad game at all. Only complaint that I had, and it's a complaint that I have for most CGE games, is the rule book is not great.
Yeah, there's two very similar themed games, Last Will and Prodigal Clubs, and I always get confused which one is which. But both of them are supposed to be fairly similar and both very good. I think the Last Will is the one I've played. I think we played it on the channel, but I could be wrong.
But yeah, that's the last one we're going to talk about. So into our topic of racing.
Vroom, vroom.
So as I alluded, who's the best go-kart driver? That would obviously be me.
I'm pretty certain we've done go-karts together, and I'm pretty certain that, you were pretty bad from what I remember. In fact,
I have no recollection of us ever racing go karts together.
I also happen to remember being in a car with you when you had a stick shift. And I also have a deep-seated fear of my life. I'll have to go and check the tapes, but it doesn't instill a lot of confidence in your go-kart ability, sir.
Well, one, we've never raced go karts together, and two, I feel that you are mistaking feelings
Mm-hmm.
because I am not that bad of a driver.
But I just want to say that, though.
So
I
on
mean,
that note, it is probably Nathan that is the best go kart driver.
I
And
don't know. I've done a little bit, but once or twice. But no, I'm probably not the best. I think we need to get on a console and play a kart racer at some point.
Mario Kart 64, all comers.
Wow.
we're older.
Mm-hmm.
Mario Kart Super Nintendo.
Oof.
But
I mean,
Mario Kart 64 was the superior Mario Kart.
yeah. I mean,
Oh,
it was.
It is.
Yeah. I think we have to go for 64. I mean, the Terminator 1 was fun.
Yeah.
I think the 64 kind of is the one that made the series what it is.
I mean, you get, Toad, and it's like, I'm the best.
Although Rainbow Road of the 64 was
That was
brutal.
terrible. That was hard. That was hard.
No, you had to go figure out there's one place where you could jump off. You could shave off part of the course if you get the right jump.
That's a lot of hours trying to figure out exactly where am I jumping, because that fall is a good 5 to 10 seconds of waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But racing games.
Yes, racing games.
So you were talking about Last Will, and that was actually connected somewhat to one of the ones I want to talk about. And that is Around the World in 80 Days. This is actually a fairly old title that's been re-released a couple times. And it has the idea of, essentially the theme is same as the book. He's got a kind of he made a bet, and for other reasons he also has to get out of town for a while, and he's trying to get around the world in 80 days, but he also needs to kind of I think the idea is he's supposed to be impressing people and making people forget about rumors that were going around about him. So by the time you get around the course, you have to make sure all the rumors are gone and you used all your money. So there's criteria for winning. So you can use your money to actually travel further. The more money you spend, more exponential distance you cover. If you do spend too much money, you can backtrack a little bit to earn money. I'm not sure exactly how that thematically works, but I suppose it's you're spending time. But it's kind of interesting how important it is to manage that and manage your rumors. And you don't necessarily want to go terribly fast in this game. You're still racing against everybody else. But if you get to the end and haven't managed your money very well or managed to get rid of the rumors, you cannot win the race. You have to kind of hang out. And that last stretch can get held up until you can waste away that last little money. It's not as much of a hold up where it would be frustrating, but it is enough that it's like you realize, oh, I screwed up, and now this other guy might win because I screwed up and did not plan well.
Now, as you said, that's been re-released a couple of. Are they just different editions? Are they basically the same game each time, or is it a little polishing here and there on each one?
I believe it's different, relatively different. I haven't played the other versions, but if you go on BGG, it's it doesn't even reference the older versions. So I think they're different enough that they kind of consider them different games. But if I looked at the pictures, and it did look like they definitely took some of the concepts at least. But it does still feel a bit dated, but it's still quite a lot of fun.
Okay. Okay. So I guess keeping in the same order, John. What do you got for a racing game you want to talk about?
Well, I'm just trying to like think of what racing games I've played that
I mean,
are
we
at
could
least a
talk
little
about
bit more on like the unique side. I mean, I could just go with one I played most recently, I guess. That'll probably be the simplest, and that would be, Heat Pedal to the Metal. We wound up playing with 4 players, and it played pretty well. I really liked it. Um, it's like a light deck builder. It's kind of more of you draft a deck and then that's it. So there's not really too much modification to it other than your deck gets worse potentially if you spin out uh, going around the track. Um, but yeah, I mean, I felt like the heat mechanic, like basically trying to cool things off and then kind of spending that heat, or adding heat back into your car, from whatever, like trying to downshift more or upshift more, taking a turn a little faster than than you could otherwise should have. I felt like all that really balanced out. Um, and I think kind of like one mistake took me from being first place to third because
yeah.
I needed like with the way my deck was because I didn't have big numbers because we did the one track that had a huge long straightaway and like I didn't have things as well set up on the final lap going into that. I was still way out ahead. If I hadn't um, tried to go too aggressive and would have downshifted, or not, actually, that was not downshifted, it's just have not pushed my car, I would have then been able to keep my lead, and I think I would have been able to at least been closer than I was at the end.
Yeah, I haven't played this, but I've read through the rules, and I thought the heat system did sound interesting. So it's my understanding is basically as you spending heat, it's going potentially eventually into your hand, and
Hmm.
it's going to clutter up your hand. And the only way you can get rid of it is by being low gear and being able to cool down. And so managing that seems super important because if you ever have a turn where you only have heat or and have nothing you could actually play, bad things happen.
Yep. Yeah. So if you have to play at least one heat as part of your number of cards you have to play, yeah. I think you just spin out and you spin out at whatever gear you're in when you spin out adds that much more stress, which gives you more of these cards that basically um, give you a random speed. So that's kind of like a lot of it is, if all you have in your hand is stress cards, you have no idea if you're going to be going slow enough for a turn that's coming up. So that's kind of another thing is keeping some hands back, cards back. Like a 1 speed card is not that useful, but say you have 3 ones, you could stay in third gear and still take that sharp turn. So then after that turn, you can shift up into fourth and drop 4 big cards on the next round.
I did also like how they handled gears, where a lot of these race games, they handle gear by like changing what dice you roll. This one's just like what gear you're in determines how many cards you can play. So you still have control of what you're doing,
Hmm.
but if you're paying a lot of cards, you might not have too many choices based on what's in your hand.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, I definitely really enjoyed it. And I would love to get another try at it. But yeah, I think as far as kind of for me, as far as like capturing kind of like the feel of a racing game, I think right now it's probably the best one for me. Like I would say there's probably like the like from what I've remember watching like NASCAR back when I used to do that, kind of like a lot of those elements of like strategy and like I don't know. It feels to me like it captures the spirit of racing pretty well.
Well, unlike NASCAR, you actually get to turn right occasionally.
Hey, you what? You get to turn right and left in NASCAR too. Those are road courses, sir, like Poconos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, in NASCAR, you can turn right anytime you want. There's just usually a wall there.
Well, funny you mentioned that. There was the one guy who decided to do the video game move that they've now banned. Like he just bam slammed his car into the wall and then just hit the gas and won the race on like the last lap. Just like went around the entire outside of the track at full speed, not even trying to steer, just like rubbing it all against the wall.
Wow.
Yeah.
That got to be expensive.
Yeah. And also it's incredibly dangerous because all
Oh,
it
yeah.
had taken is like one thing to just bump him off of it and he's just like careening right into the line. Yeah. I mean it's pretty amazing to watch it, but probably probably for the best that they banned it.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm surprised it wasn't like a banned thing before because I would have thought that was not legal.
But when any of those sports, though, they usually hire somebody like, all right, scour the rule book and find me a loophole.
Yep.
Yep.
That's why Sam employed me to do that for his game.
So, Evan, what race game do you want to talk about?
So I'm going to talk about Bristol 1350. So that is a game from Facade Games. It's in their Dark City series, which they actually just finished kickstarting their fifth game, Hollywood 1947, I believe. But this is I believe, their fourth one. So Bristol 1350, you are in the English town of Bristol in the middle of the bubonic plague. And there are three carts, and you are trying to get out of the city without catching the plague. And as you go, if you can get your cart across the finish line first and nobody in the cart is infected, you win. If at least one person is infected, you don't. So everyone gets cards, and there's numbers onto the cards. They're basically different symptoms of the plague, and there's numbers that are assigned to them. And if your two cards, if they add up to 6 or more, you have the plague. But that's all hidden information. Now in the game, you'll have some die that you'll roll that will tell you if you can move or different other things you can do. And some of the stuff you can do is you can shimmy around people into the cart. You can kick them off the cart. You can jump from your cart to somebody else's cart. So all sorts of different things, and a lot of the good stuff with like hidden information and social deduction that goes in it. Facade Games does a really good job of mixing their social deduction into it without making it a pure social deduction game. I really enjoyed their doing that, and the art style and everything that they have for their games is really good. Plus, their games are always 1 to like 9 players, and it handles it very well between low and high player counts. But it was actually one of the first things that I thought of when we talked about racing games that I have over here. I haven't got to play it, sadly. It's still sitting there, but I can't wait to actually play it one of these days.
You had me at bubonic plague.
I mean,
I have to get this game now. I did back their most recent game, and I probably will up my Kickstarter now to include this and maybe their other games as well.
And even just to have them, just for the look, they look like books. They just flat out look straight up like awesome looking books, and everything for the most part fits into it really well. And they're magnetically shut, so you don't have stuff that's just going to spill out. They spend a lot of money just into the design of even just the case, which is really cool. Downside to the game is, like I said, they can play higher player counts of 7 to 9, but it's usually around a player mat that is only, about yay big. So everyone has to kind of crowd around it. That's the biggest downside I've had to 3 of their 4 games so far. Deadwood does not have that problem. you can actually spread that one out a little bit better. But the other ones have a player mat that is you're kind of around. Oh no, I'll take that back too. Salem does not have a player mat.
Okay.
So back to you, Nathan.
Since John talked about Heat, I will talk about another game by the same designer. This is Flamme Rouge.
Oh, well, let me go and mark that one off my list here.
So, this is a pretty on the light end of racing games. You are racing bikes, and you have two bikers. You have a sprinter and a pacer. I don't think that's the actual term they use in the game, but
Roller.
essentially, roller. Yes. So you have one that's got higher numbers, but tires out quicker, so you can run out of your high numbers pretty quick. But the roller is just like all average numbers, and you're playing cards. Everybody has the same set of cards to start with, and you're playing them to get around the course, and you want to hopefully get behind people so you can draft and like jump in front of them. If you end up in the front of a pack, you're gonna get tired, and you put exhaustion into your deck, and that slows you down, colors up your hand, and your deck is gonna kind of change as you go. So it's gonna be about managing that, trying not to be in the front of the pack till when it's really necessary. And it does have optional rules for like downhill and uphill. It's nice, fast, straightforward. It's got a modular map, so you can kind of rebuild it how you want, and it has like a list of real world race courses that you can build. So it's a lot of fun. I'm really excited to try Heat, and I see the improvements that they've made out of it. And that's one of the big things about Flamme Rouge. It's a great game, but I have all these other great racing games, and this is near to the quality of some of them, but not quite as great as many of the other ones I have, in my opinion.
It seemed to be one that to really be one that you would like, you would have to really be into like bike racing, like into it. Like I have a very expensive bike and I bike a lot.
For me, it was kind of when somebody brought it out at Origins, I was like, I don't know. But then I played it, and you know what? In the Flamme Rouge, it was fun. I enjoyed it. You know, it was like it felt like a good, like not a heavy racing game, but at least there was some meat to it though. But it was also still played pretty quick.
Yeah, and I think where it falls down, I think it's not actually in the mechanics. It's more in the replayability. If you get some expansions, I know there are some expansions for this. I'd love to try those out at some point. This might really bump it back up for me.
Yeah, some of the expansions do add a lot of like uniqueness to like the different tiles in the courses.
Yeah. So, John, now that I stole one of the ones you want to talk about, what else would you like to talk about?
Yeah, well, you stole. So I kind of went with the first one was like the one I felt was my, when I felt like the captured the racing game for me the best. Flamme Rouge was going to be my, more unique, entry into that. I've got a few others I was thinking of, but to kind of offset it to kind of go a little bit different, how about one that I liked initially, but then I felt the expansions kind of detracted from it, or what I think more exasperated its flaws, and that was automobiles. The bag builder racing game. At least I think that was the name. Is it automobiles? Let me double check, make sure I got the right name here.
Okay.
Yep, that's it. Yeah. So yeah,
it confused me because there's a different game called Automobile Singular. That's not a racing game, but it's about building cars.
Oh yeah, but yeah, no, this one is car racing. It's a bag builder. So you're building your bag as you go along through the race. And for like a single race game, it felt pretty good. It's like it's kind of racing to get the different things and trying to get a broken combination going with you know, your bag. Um, and then the expansions came along, adding in seasons and like different drivers. So the drivers felt good, kind of giving you a special power, that you can use. But that's kind of where then like the expansions start really getting a lot of the flaws of the game. Is if you do a season, it's just really easy for somebody to basically have won the game already in the first race, and then for you basically you're then stuck playing two more races, and there's the in between things just really have 0 point. Because there's like removing wear out of your bag and everything else. But I mean, um, like there's these different sponsors you can get, so thematically it feels good. But I mean, usually you have your bag how you want it before the first race even ends, because that's kind of how the game played before, and that you'd have your bag set up where you want it. And if somebody beats you to all of the specific cube that like so you're completely blocked out from getting blue ones or whatever, you're then pretty much hosed for the rest of the game, and it just feels bad. So it's kind of like before, automobiles was pretty high up for me, but it's kind of gone down as it's gotten more expansions.
Yeah, bag building seems like a really well suited to racing, but I haven't played one that does it. So this sounds interesting.
Yeah, I would definitely play this one with base, and at most play with the driver powers, and that's it. Anything else, and you're then just basically setting up so you're playing a lot longer for to like have no chance at winning, because it's kind of you get points for winning each race. So unless like one person gets blocked, like it is, if everyone is on their A game, and somebody isn't allowed to just run away with it, but it's just very easy for somebody to run away with it, and you're then just stuck there. We're like, yep, I mean, I'm doing things, but there's no fun.
Yeah, that's kind of rough.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, base game, yeah, definitely worth it. And in fact, I think Yukata has automobiles on there, if I remember right. So, all right, Evan, what else do you have for us?
All right. So racing. And so far we've talking about taking some kind of device and trying to get it across the finish line. Well, what if that device is yourself, but not in a race, but just the race of life? So the game I'm going to be talking about is called Checkout. So Checkout is, to sum up, have you ever been late to work and you have to run and grab something really quick on your way there to eat? So the idea of the game is you are late to work, you are running into a convenience store to grab something to eat, but so is everybody else. And you need to grab something and check out so you can get your stuff. This game has a racing mechanism, as in you are rolling die in real time against everyone else. There are a certain amount of items that are out, and you must match the symbols on the die versus what is actually out there in order to claim it. You have 5 die, and as you claim the stuff out there, you will solely lose the die. And then at any point, you can yell out checkout, grab your stuff, and move to the checkout counter. And then there are certain items that are over there in the checkout counter that you can straight up buy. And it goes for 5 rounds. You do set collecting based off of the big items that you're buying. The smaller items give you smaller bonus points, and you actually can gain coins with the stuff that you don't use. And the 5th round, you have to buy the die that you have with leftover money from the previous round. So you can't just go all in every round. It is not a great game. It is a fantastic 5 to 10 minute filler game with you are done thinking at the end of the night and you just want something to fill out something. That is where this game shines because there's really no thinking, no real strategy into this. I literally taught everybody how to play this game just now. It's simple, but yeah, I mean you're racing against all the other players.
It sounds interesting. I love the fact it comes from Singapore. So uh,
Hmm.
it's not a lot of creativity is encouraged over there, unfortunately. So it's nice that that's being opened up and a lot of creativity is starting to come out of that part of the world. Hopefully that's not offensive to people, but I mean, I lived in Singapore for a while, and I felt like there's a lot of restrictions there, basically.
Well, and a lot of part of that world too. A lot of your outside the box thinkers are pushed into different jobs, not into design like this. So people that could have the conceptual thinking of a game are put into a different field that they are now. That's what they're going to do, and they're not going to be making games. There could be a lot of games that could have been made fantastically. They just never had the opportunity, unfortunately.
Yeah, thinking about outside the box thinking. I literally had a friend over there that his entire job was designing boxes. The shape and not even the design on the box, just the shape of the box.
Yeah, and the company that made it, they're an offshoot of Capital Gain Studio, which I've talked about before. They're the company that's done like teaching games such as like zombie life insurance and cryptocurrency and stuff like that to teach like real world concepts in a game and do it pretty well. This is an offshoot of them, Meerkat Games. They've done a couple different things, but they're more into like fun, quick games as opposed to let's teach you life concepts.
Well, you don't want to learn real life skills?
I have a couple of their games, and so I have learned skills. But Nathan,
Okay, so I also want to talk about a game called Formula D. So
Oh,
this
they
is another
mark
game that,
mark that
or
off as
Formula
my
Day.
number 2 now.
So this is another game that is trying for racing simulation. So it's trying to be as real as possible, which means they're putting a lot into this game. And there's a lot of cool elements to this game. You have to worry about wear for your car, obstacles. If your car wears out too much, you can break down and you can actually leave pieces of your car behind that can be obstacles for other people. And you can accidentally collide with other people and do damage. And one of the interesting things is you have this little dashboard that's you have an actual gear shift that you're putting through a car through a cardboard slots and sliding it around, so it's nice and tactile, but it is a little hard to move around without like damaging the dashboard. And then your gears are represented by different types of dice. You can have higher value dice with higher possible ranges, but there is a lot of variability because I don't remember the exact numbers on the dice. So you might have a dice that goes like 12 through 20, or so. There's quite a bit of luck for what basically is a simulation game, and it also is relatively long because you do go around the course, I believe, 2 to 3 times, and it's a fun game, but I think it needed to be pared down a little bit. Some of the mechanics need to be cleaner.
Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed Formula D. I mean, it would have been probably one of my, if definitely not having played Heat, would have been my like number one like racing game. But yeah, that variability, I don't really like that too much, and I feel like you know the Heat like allowing you to have the deck and you kind of know what's in there and you can discard to like you have a lot more control. Like I feel you would actually have in a race kind of situation. So I don't know. It just feels more strategic to me than Formula D has.
Yeah, and I did feel like Heat was trying to incorporate a lot of those elements, but it did it in such a simple and elegant way compared to this one that's a little bit on the clunky end. But it's still a great game. It's just
Yep.
in comparison to some of these other games, it is not as good, but it's still good. There's areas that could be cleaned up.
Yep. Yeah. Have you ever managed to play Formula D, Evan?
I have not.
So I think that's going to be the last one I'm stealing from you. Fortunately, hopefully you still have a couple to talk about.
I actually do have a couple more to talk about. So I
Good.
mean, then there's another one that's a little bit different take on a racing game. Um, Downforce.
Okay, now you stole one from me. I
Yeah.
didn't know that'd be on the list.
Well, we've been doing it back and forth. I mean, I stole Heat, you stole Flamme Rouge, and then I decided not to go with Formula D next, and then you stole it. So I mean, I have to come back with Downforce, obviously.
Only fair.
Yeah.
Which, side note, before you get into Downforce, all of our Canadian friends at Dollarama right now, Downforce is $5 Canadian. So
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty good like kind of like little. I feel it's more like a betting game, so it's kind of a little more akin to like a stock game or whatever. Because sure you can sponsor a car, but you can win and have your car just do nothing in the race. I mean, sure you're definitely gonna be better off if your car does something, but winning multiple bids and you know having multiple cars that you're in charge of, that could win you the race and win you the most money, but it might not because it's a bidding game. So you're at different points of the game, you're bidding on who you think is going to get first, second, and third, and everybody has cards that they're going to be playing that move potentially everybody. So you get to like control. So you could have somebody else could win be the main driver for the black car, but you could be holding on to all of its big numbers. Like you could just never play them or play them at an inopportune time.
And I love the card mechanic where you get all your cards at the beginning, so there's a little bit luck in what you draw. But once you've actually drawn your card and start bidding on cards, you would know exactly what you have available to play.
Yep.
And you can actually sabotage a little bit by making sure you play your high value cards that apply to other cards at the absolute worst times for them, or you can push up your opponent forward because you're betting on them to win.
Exactly. Yep. So be like, oh yeah, hey, you win, I win, kind of situation.
And the initial takeoff is really important because you could want to like go fast to begin with, kind of get people to trick people into betting on you. But because you're in the lead, you might actually still end up winning because other people are pushing you forward.
Yep.
So you really have to be careful. It's like you could win the race and lose because you didn't bet on yourself.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely got that kind of hidden, but I mean, like everybody has perfect knowledge of what they have, and it's just, I don't know, it's just creates a lot of interesting dynamics, and you could also slow play it. Like if everybody else outbids you on all the cars, and if you're the last one, everybody has to have a car, so that means you get to get yours for cheap. So you don't even necessarily have to win to be able to make a big profit on them. Like getting second place is, going to be better than somebody else getting first because they spent too much money for their cars, kind of situation.
And this is designed by Restoration Game, who's coming out with another racing game that I'm super excited to try out. It's Thunder Road Vendetta.
Oh, I
And
hadn't heard of that.
This adds car combat, so you actually can attach weapons to your car. You can have oil on the road that can catch fire, and basically you're trying to destroy all the other cars as you're racing. So I'm really excited to try that one out. It'll be definitely a different feel, but hopefully in a good way.
Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, it was on Kickstarter a little while ago. It should. I'm sure it'll come on retail once Kickstarters are filled.
All right.
So Evan,
Yeah, Evan,
what
what
do
do
you
you
have
got?
for us?
Or you could put yourself off mute.
That would help. So, funny enough that you mention all that, because the next game that I'm going to talk about takes place in the apocalypse, where you are racing in a futuristic dirt track with vehicles that have guns and missiles and whatnot, and you destroy the other people as you try to get around the track and be first. And that is a miniature game called Gaslands. So Gaslands is a relatively small game. I believe it's only like 60 or 70 pages long. Um, and it's a miniature game. Now, what's really cool is the game is encouraging you to dig out those old Matchbox cars that you have, find some bits and bobs, and attach them to that thing, pull out your rulers, and start a race in them. So, and the idea is much like I said, it is you're racing in a dirt track and you have the full ability to plow and damage and shoot and blow up other people's cars as you go around. And with it having no direct miniature line, using whatever you got laying around, or going to the dollar store and buying, 6 cars and attaching some old GI Joe weapons to it, by all means, you can. I saw a really cool school bus that had like spinning like chainsaw wheels coming out of the side once, and it was just awesome. And it's just one of those games that it doesn't take itself seriously, because you can't if you're doing that.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I don't have too much to comment on that, so I'll just go on to my
Yeah.
next one, which we'll stick with that theme and say next I want to talk about is Roadkill Rally. So basically, if you know that stupid game that stupid awful game that you kids love to play, where they say, "Oh, this old lady's worth 10 points if you hit her. This baby's worth 5." That's basically Roadkill Rally as into a board game. You're racing around a track. You have pedestrians. You're trying to hit along the way, and you're also trying to take out your opponents. It's awful, but it's fun. It's kind of an obscure game that not many people know about. And the theme is probably the reason why. But as long as you are treating it as a lighthearted, silly game, it has actually quite a lot of fun. And the mechanics are really, really simple. It's a modular board, and you're just rolling dice, and the gear you are, and determine what dice you're rolling. Pretty standard for a lot of the classic racing games. And Evan was so horrified by the theme he had to walk away for a second.
It seems so.
I ran out of beverage.
Mm.
And I'm sure that wasn't on John's list.
Nope, that was not on my list.
Have you even heard of it before?
Nope, I have not heard of that one before. So that one was a new one on me. I think that's really going to be about it for games that I'm, intimately familiar with. I mean, I can mention Robo Rally, but I really don't remember enough about that other than I remember just attacking each other, and it's kind of programmatic to a degree.
Yeah, it's a program movement game where you're going to be moving along a track trying to get to different checkpoints and avoid little obstacles. But you can, as you're moving, if you accidentally bump into somebody else, you can kind of throw off their entire program.
Yep.
I
felt like it was less of a race game and more of just like battle bots. That's why
it can devolve into that, but yeah, you're ostensibly racing, but it doesn't feel very racy.
Yeah.
Because it's programmed, so you're spending a lot of time thinking about your program and then you're moving.
Yep.
The big thing that really annoyed me with this is Hasbro did an edition of it that was probably not the best version,
Mm.
and that's what's available. It was decent, but from my understanding, all the earlier versions were significantly better in many ways. Just like the component quality for the Hasbro was, yeah.
Yeah, I remember like a lot of people reverently, remembering Robo Rally, from the older editions. But I mean, that was kind of, probably like 20 plus years ago when people were remembering it fondly like that.
Yeah, I got I picked up one of the early editions with all the pewter pieces.
Nice.
So I gotta get that to the table and try that out.
But yeah, that's well, I do have one other game, but we'll see how that goes after Evan goes.
Okay. See, I went for no low hanging fruit on my racing list, so
Hmm.
that's why I won't have any repeats.
Okay.
So the next one here that I have is called 1944 Race to the Rhine, which I know, Nathan, you just did an unboxing for their sequel, Race to Moscow. So, 1944 Race to the Rhine, you were in charge of one of the three main generals in uh, the European theater of World War II. You're going to either be Patton, Field Marshal Montgomery, or General Bradley. And the war is going very well at this point. It's only a matter of who can bring the close to the war the quickest. And by doing that, as much was speculated at the time, who can cross into Germany first will bring victory to the U.S. or British forces. So this is a Euro style game where you're doing that. It has a race mechanic of you need to be the first one to get all the way to the Rhine. And if you look at the board, it's a very, very complicated web of all the different cities in between from France all the way into Germany that you're going to have to go and take your armies across to your different corps. And you have to manage the logistics. You have to have ammunition to fight for your troops. You got to have food to feed them. And you got to have fuel to move them. You also have to create a supply chain going back to the supply depots or major cities. And all those resources are shared with all the other players. So if something runs out, there's not enough for everyone else. So there's a lot of manipulation that you have to go. There's 6 actions you can take on your turn. You can only take 2 of them. And you just have to watch what you're doing and figure out how can I be the one to make it across there. I played it once, probably 2 to 3 years ago. It's by Academy Games, and they're or Flanix Games. Sorry, Flanix Games. Flanix has a very bad habit of convoluting a game much more than it really needs to be, and it was a very different and interesting war logistics game. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about war games, there's not a whole lot rest of us can add most of the time, but
Yeah.
it does sound like a very interesting take, and I think an aspect of war that's definitely underutilized and a theme of it that's underused. Because yeah, I mean, getting supply lines would have been super important, and doing it fast would have been essential. Essentially.
Yeah, and I mean, then that's the key part to the game is it's not even if you can get to the ride first. It's if you can get to the ride and have an uninterrupted supply chain back. You have to have both in order to do that. And like I said, with everything being shared, including the trucks for supplies, can you do it? And logistics is just as important as the actual fighting of it. I mean, there's an art form to that you have people that are just that's their job of figuring this out. And it's hard. It is really hard. Like I said, I played it. It was hard. It was a very hard game. But like I said, it just wasn't for me. From what I understand, though, Race to Moscow is supposed to be better So hopefully one day that I can play that, and I know that Nathan has a copy. So maybe one day when Nathan comes down from the far north, we can.
Yeah, I can always bring it down. We'll see. I think I will earmark it for you if I ever lose my collection, though.
All right.
So I have one more I want to talk about before we get to the ones we all played, and that is Maracaibo. This is definitely an out of the box choice. It's a
Dan, you
so
made it.
Maracaibo is one of Dan's favorite games. It was in his top 10 at one point, and it's a worker placement game where you're going around the Caribbean and trying to decide how far to go with each turn to determine what actions you want to take. The race element is a little bit. It's not one of the major mechanics. Well, I guess it is, but it's not something you essentially have to do. But if you race ahead, you basically end the round earlier because the first person that makes it back to Maracaibo triggers the end of the round, and that might mean a lot of people don't get the actions they wanted. One of the things that's really has nothing to do with racing, but it's one of the really interesting elements of this game is it's a campaign game. So as you're going around, there's actual quests that you can fulfill to advance the story and unlock new quests for the next playthrough. And I, one of the things that was really good about this is, while it's similar to a legacy game, it's not technically legacy because you're not destroying anything. All the new things you unlock are essentially tiles that you put on top of the board rather than stickers. So it's fully replayable. You can do the whole campaign several times. You can play any particular chapter, or you can just play the base game. And spoilers, but I do talk about this a little bit in my top 100. And one of the things I really thought about was with the increase in board game prices, I have a strong feeling that we will deviate a little bit more from legacy games and start for more towards this type of replayable legacy more often to get as much money out of the game as you can.
Yeah, I mean that seems like I mean that's kind of like where even like Gloomhaven goes a little bit because I mean how many they're even selling them now the removable stickers because
Yep.
I mean that's my one buddy when he did his copy of it he didn't want he wanted to be able to have it so he could reset the game if he wanted to.
Yeah, and that's a 100-hour game, and they're thinking about, oh, do people want to replay this afterwards? Although I could see some scenarios where you might want to restart early, so maybe your campaign group breaks up, and you
Yep.
need to start with a new group. You might want to actually reset everything.
Yep. Or even if you want to resell the game or anything else. I mean,
Yep.
you know, like being able to have like a fresh, copy. That's kind of huge.
I mean, Gloomhaven and Frosthaven don't really have anything to do with racing, but there are races involved.
Yep. There are races involved. I was kind of
Uh,
more going with the trend of trying to make
yeah,
the
yeah.
games. Yeah, but yeah. Um.
Uh, Actually, if you look on BGG and go by their definition of racing, pretty much anything can be considered racing. It's like,
I mean, I guess a lot of things have like a race mechanic. You're racing to 10 points, but I mean, you
yeah,
know,
that's
in that case, then Twilight Imperium counts. And that seems no.
it's like a race for the galaxy. You're racing to 10 points. It is race in the title, but
Yeah,
it's not a race game. There's nothing race in there.
no. All right. So I guess I don't have any other games really, racing games to kind of go with that I could think of that I could speak about. Like I think I played Camel Up once, but I don't remember too much about it other than there were camels tokens.
Yeah, that's an interesting game. It's not so much there is a racing element, but it's mainly focused on the betting.
Yep.
So it
Which I
so
mean,
in it,
Downforce is kind of also a bit on the betting too. So I mean, it feels like that should count for being a race
yeah, I
game.
mean, I would count it as a racing game, but it's the idea is the camels are kind of just going on their own. You don't care which camel wins per se. You're just betting, and you got this pyramid that has dice in it. You pop the pyramid, the dice pop out, and it determines which camel moves and how far, or at least which camel moves. And they're betting. The sooner you bet, the better. The only real control over it you have is deciding whether to bet or put the a die out to move a camel. And you can also play little hazards to basically if they hit that hazard they go backwards or maybe go forwards depending on which hazard you play. So I didn't really like it that much because I felt like you didn't have a lot of control over what was happening.
Yeah, that sounds like probably why I've only played it once and almost completely forgot that I'd even played it.
Yeah. And they got
Um,
the backwards camel that's just weird. If the camels stack on top of each other and they're stacked on the backwards camel that pulls all of them back. Okay.
all right, you got anything else there then, Evan? Other than the one that we all played?
So I'm going to mention one more here, and this one is a game that is not well received. It has a 4.2 ranking on BGG.
Mm-hmm.
James himself has rated it a 1. And in the list of 1 reviews, someone has been bold enough to say, not enough bad things can be said about this game. I question the moral fiber and judgment of anyone who rates this higher than a 1. And that is the Oregon Trail card game. I am mostly putting this in here so that James has to listen to this in the editing and listen to all of it. But actually, it is a racing game. As you play the game, you are trying to get from the starting in St. Louis all the way to the Oregon territory. You're flipping up cards and trying to move across. The game is next to impossible to win. The game design is very terrible. You're going to die repeatedly. The only redeeming quality for this game itself is that they put a dry erase board on there with tombstones that you can write on as your characters die of dysentery or many other things. It is a terrible implementation of a nostalgic game, and I think most people that had a copy of it has probably either gotten rid of it to someone that they go, you know what?
I
I
don't like it.
secretly dislike this person,
Mhm.
and they will get it.
Which is why you're trying to get me to give it to James again.
Maybe. I just think it's funny that there was 2 copies of it listed in your auction
Mm-hmm.
in there. I think they were both at $1, and I don't foresee them going much higher than that.
Yeah.
But as a gag game to James, that's worth $1.
Yeah, that auction will probably be over by the time this airs, but yeah, my local game store Diversions does several times a year does use game auctions that I really enjoy and like participating in. And some of the games are terrible, but there's some really great games too.
Oh yeah, there's a couple that I have my eyes on that into there. But yes, for racing, for you, James, Oregon Trail card
Ha-
game.
Happy birthday.
This is what you get for not being here, and we get to run amok.
So I guess we'll move on to talking about the game we all played in a recent recording, and that was the Quest for El Dorado. Now I've played this a number of times, so I kind of want to hear what you all felt about it.
I liked it. I felt like you could get kind of hosed over by luck, but I mean, you still had control. Like, I mean, I took a gamble and it wound up, costing me a few turns of just sitting there when if I could have gone the long way and, it probably would have been better off for it. But, I mean, even then, I still had some big plays and was able to, kind of make plans and I mean, I still showed up there near the finish line, on the last round. So,
Well, I suppose I should describe the game in case people haven't watched
oh,
the playthrough yet. So that's basically in the game you have a hand of cards that are going to have oars for going through water, hatchets for cutting through jungles, money for either going to villages or spending to buy new cards. And on the map, you're going to have those same symbols, and you're trying to get as far as fast as you can through this map and making sure you have the symbols to be able to go where you need to go. That's basically the entire game.
So, I mean, it was my first time playing the game. It's super simple, super easy to pick up. It's not hard. I mean, it's a very basic deck building game. Um, I feel you can easily get hosed with luck onto it, um, which is for a basic deck building game. It's very much into the nature of just. I mean, if you only have 15 to 17 cards and you're only drawing four, you're very much at the limit of what your decks can build. If you're not too familiar with that mechanic of how to manipulate a deck down, you know, there's a little bit of a curve into trying to learn that there.
yeah, and kind of going on the learning on the curve. I mean, there's definitely a few cards that I feel like I undervalued, and if I would have not passed on them earlier, because I was trying to save up for one specific card, and if I hadn't gotten hyper focused on getting the draw one, trash one card, and just would have taken the draw two, trash two, one time use instead, that was cheaper. I think I would have also done a lot better.
Well, that's where I ran. See, I was humming along very well in the very beginning of the game, and then for two turns in a row, I got screwed out on bad luck, just because since you can't go into the same spot somebody else went, and my path that I had designed, people jumped in front of me both times. So at that point, it was me waiting, and I didn't want to give up too much of what I had because I was designed to go a certain way. Had I just deviated at that point and then just did what I did 5 turns later, which was I need to start milling this down because now I'm on a different path to go through this because of things that happened many turns in a row. If I just would have done that, I would have been better off because, much like I said at the end of the game, both John and I were 2 turns away from where you guys were at the very end. And those 2 turns were where we were stuck there for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the game was competitive the entire time, which I felt.
Yeah.
Which is a good game.
Yeah, we kept on changing who was in the lead, so that was good. But one of the things is that you realize the more you played is you really have to look further ahead than you would think you have to look because you have to realize, okay, when you get a card, you have to go through your deck and then shuffle back in. So it'll be at least a couple, 3 to 4 turns before you actually see that card. So the map is modules, so you're generally looking like 2 modules ahead for what symbols are needed and planning for that. The other thing, I did screw up kind of badly the first time I played. I got to the end of the map and I had been trimming down the cards and I got rid of my card with the ore and I didn't realize that was you only start with 1 ore and I never picked up anything throughout. And the last space I needed was an ore. The only time I would have used an ore in the entire race. And I was like, oh, where is that? Where is that? And I didn't get any of those. I didn't pick up any of the ones that could have let me go into any space at all. So I made it so I couldn't win by accident, which is impressive in a way because there are a lot of cards that would let you, go it wherever you want basically, or get around that.
And the replayability of the game is phenomenal just for how modular the game boards are set up. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's 6 or 7 different ones that are set up for the game that we played on BG or on Tabletop Simulator.
I think there's
that were
more
right
than that.
there. But really, I mean, there's almost hundreds of different ways you could set up that board, even just on your own. So it's just that's really nice that you could just play the game and each time it being slightly different, more so than just the deck manipulation.
Yep.
And where those tiles get placed does have a significant impact, because that will definitely change what cards you prioritize for buying, and like significantly change your play style.
Oh, much like you said, Nathan. I mean, how it's laid out, you didn't need ores, so you ditched them. But you missed it all the way to the end, and you're like, oh crap.
Yep. So I think that wraps it up for racing games, and we can continue on to our silly game. So hopefully you all are ready for this.
Nope.
So this silly game is going to be a race in of itself. And it's going to require a little bit of math on my part, hopefully not too much. So, and a lot of thinking on your part. So let me prep this. And John. So how this is going to work is I'm going to name a seed city, so a starting city. And you each have to name a city that is featured in a board game. So either in the title, or the title has to be strongly tied to some particular real world city. And I'm going to look up the distance from my seed city to your city. And we'll do that a couple rounds. And whoever travels the furthest wins. And I'm going to put a little bit of a theme on this just as a sentence. So basically, aliens are invading. And they are going to wipe out the city you're in. And you want to get as far as possible from that city.
Okay.
Okay.
And so we are going to go off, and I am going to start off. We talked about a game called Race to Moscow. So we will start off in Moscow. And I want you each to pick a board game that features a city and that you're going to go to.
All right. Does it have to stay
Got
within the continent, or any other restrictions?
Anywhere in the world, you want to be as far from there as possible.
All right. From Moscow. All right. I got mine.
I got mine.
Okay. Let's start with John, and no cheating and changing it. I'm going to trust you that you're not changing
All
it.
right.
So, John, where are you going?
I'm going to the city of big shoulders, which is Chicago.
And what is the name of the game?
City of Big Shoulders.
Oh, that is actually the
Yeah,
name
that
of
is
the game.
actually the game. Yeah.
Chicago, Illinois. So
Yep.
the total distance from Moscow to Chicago is 4,972 miles. Let's just call that an even 5,000, just to be to avoid lots of math at the end. Okay, Evan, where are you going?
To a very tropical place, San Juan, Puerto Rico. From the game Puerto Rico.
That might be a little bit. Yeah, that's probably gonna be a little bit further.
I think it'll be a little closer. Oh, no, that is further.
Yeah, because I was just thinking about it. It's like, no, because you could go over the northern hemisphere. I made a mistake going northern hemisphere. I should have gone southern.
So it is 5,681.49 miles. So let's just call it 5.7 thousand miles. So since San Juan was the furthest away, well, that's the next one to be attacked. And where are we going from there?
I got mine.
I got one that's for a continent, but nope. I'm just trying to remember a globe. I'm wanting to pick one that's going to be here. So if I want to go furthest, I need to go.
you have
That
to
should be
know
good. All right,
your
I got
code,
one.
and you have to know your board games for this.
All right, I've got one that might work.
Okay,
So
Evan, do you have one?
I do.
Okay, we will start with Evan this time.
Deception. Murder in Hong Kong.
we both had similar ideas. I went with Tokaido, the
Oh,
journey
okay.
through to Edo. Yeah, so the question is whether or not that little bit of difference, which one's closer? I'm not sure. I think you might be further away.
It's going to be close.
Yeah.
So Evan is 9.6. And how do I spell Tokaido?
It's Tokido. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember which city you're actually trying to go to in Tokaido. I think it is just Tokaido. It's where you're trying to go to.
Don't wait. Give me a second because I don't think that's right. I can't spell. I was thinking. My first thought would have been King of Tokyo.
Oh, I don't think Tokaido is actually a specific city on there. I think that's just the name of a road.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I think that's yep. Yeah,
Let's
an
look that
EC
up
road.
and figure that out. So, what city is that connected to?
Yeah, that's kind of like because there is a city at the end. I'm trying to remember what. Because you're going along the Tokaido Road to, and I'm trying to remember what. Description on BGG isn't telling me what the city is that you're going to.
Just do Tokyo. That's fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably
that's
just
gonna be close
Tokyo.
enough, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, the country's not huge, so I mean, we're talking on a couple 100 miles in between from
Yeah.
left to right, up and down.
Yeah, it's gonna The main difference is gonna be the Sea of Japan there anyway.
Mhm.
What? This thing's not. It wants. I put it to Tokyo, and it's going me Tokyo Auto Parts in Toronto.
Nope.
That's the one I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, that's definitely a clear winner for Evan, actually.
Yeah.
So
it should
Evan
have
was
been
9.6. Wait, yeah, Tokyo is 8.3.
Yep. I realized what my mistake was and why I should have gone a little bit further west. I should have gone for one in India. But I couldn't think of any that was a specific city in India themed. Everything I could think was more like the country.
You know what? We will go for Tokyo because I just want to have a kaiju battle in Tokyo.
All right.
And you're trying to now escape from this massive kaiju battle. And this will be the last round just to
All right, see if I can at least redeem myself somewhat here.
And obviously you cannot say something we've already said. Actually, you know what? Since it's going to be the last round, let's make this hard. Let's go for a city you probably don't know very well. Let's see. Okay, well. Go for Leiden.
Are you going to tell us where that is?
Nope.
All right, well, you pronouncing it in the correct accent?
Probably not. Actually, I'll give you one that I can actually pronounce and be sure it's right. Leipzig. And you probably will know where that is.
Leipzig. All right, I have a guess.
I've
So,
got mine.
I gotta first think about where I'm trying to find a game for, and then if it's there, and I want. Uh, all right, so the problem is trying to think of a game to a specific region that's not like for the general region.
Yeah.
Because I could go with Down Under, but that's just all of Australia, Outback. That doesn't make any. That's not.
I am even holding the copy of the game that I'm going to be
Mm,
using.
uh,
Ooh. See, I
mm,
didn't have that challenge. I could just name any city. I didn't necessarily set that rule for myself that I need a board game.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh man, Sierra. All right, I gotta try. It's gotta be some board game that's in that general region.
I,
That's a specific
I
city in
thought of
there.
one that I. Well, that would not be a great choice.
Man, I'm also trying not to look anything up too. No, that one's not specifically there. Man, this is tough. Is trying to think of a game that's themed at that. Uh oh, you want I could go there? Yeah, no, that's good. Uh,
You're just in,
I got one.
delaying the inevitability of my win, John. That's all you're doing.
Nope, because I mean, does a remote science base count as a city? There's
As long as
people that
it's
live there.
as long as there's a geographic location that I can look up. If it doesn't come up on my search, I might have to ask you to do another one. So we can go and start with you, and if it doesn't come up,
All right, because then I was like, okay, let's go with something in Antarctica.
yeah,
All right, and the thing. There's a
yep.
research base there. I'm trying to remember what it was called.
If you can't think of the research base, I can go with Antarctica, but it's probably going to give you the closest point in Antarctica.
I mean, I would still take that, But yeah, let's see here.
And funnily enough, I did think of the same game.
I can go grab that game. It's over here.
hmm But that was not
so,
the game you were thinking of, though.
This is not the game I'm holding right now.
Okay.
so are we going with Antarctica?
Yeah, I'm going with Antarctica. Actually, I was going to look up here real quick, see if we got the. It's got like a. That just has a as a generic base in Antarctica. So yeah, we'll take that. I'll take Antarctica.
Okay. So Evan, what do you have prepared?
So I have in my hand, and where we're going to go is Port George in the Falklands for Mrs. Thatcher's War, the Falklands, 1982 for the Falklands War.
hmm that's pretty good. I was trying to think of something Australia, but I just could not
Okay.
think of a game other than Down Under.
Port George. Uh, what country is that?
Is it Argentina?
Technically, the United Kingdom, but it's
Hmm.
just off of the coast of Argentina. Side note: this game banned in Argentina.
I mean, I can understand why.
Well, how do you spell Falklands then?
Falklands.
Okay. Falkland Islands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll go for that. Okay, so you have a total. Wow. Um, yeah, Evan won. Excuse me. 18,000 miles with that one, and compared to John's 9.3 thousand miles. And
Mm,
given that Evan won every single round, I don't know if we really need to calculate the total distance.
No, I don't think we do.
I think we do. I think we do. I think we do.
I don't think we do.
Okay. I'll make you happy. I can hear a little bit of typing here. Hopefully it's not too loud.
I mean, I guess we gotta let them, revel in winning something. I guess.
Okay, so John traveled a total of 22.6 thousand miles away from these horrible aliens that are trying to ravage the Earth. And Evan traveled a total of 33.4 thousand miles. So Evan, by about 11,000 miles, won this game.
Yep.
So that was our stupid game for this week, and hopefully it was stupid and silly enough. I don't know if we could really get sillier than that. Well, hope you all enjoyed this episode, and you'll join us again. Thank you for watching.